Hello everyone and welcome back to Slow English Talk. Before we start, remember that you can read everything I'm saying in the episode description. Now, I want you to imagine this scene. It's a quiet Sunday evening, October 30th, 1938. Families across America are sitting in their living rooms, listening to the radio. And then, chaos. People start running out of their houses. They're putting clothes in bags, loading up their cars. Some are putting wet towels on their faces. Others are calling the police. "Officer, please help us," a woman cries. "Where should we go to escape the Martians?" Wait, did I just say Martians? Yes, on this one night in 1938, thousands of Americans really believed that creatures, living beings from Mars, were attacking Earth. You're probably thinking, how is that possible? Well, that's exactly what we're going to find out today. And I promise, by the end of this story, you might think, you know what? I probably would have believed it too. The panic spreads. Picture this. Panic is spreading across America like a fire. In New York, families are putting things in their cars and driving toward the countryside as fast as they can. They're fleeing, running away quickly from danger. In New Jersey, people are calling police asking for gas masks. A gas mask covers your face to protect you from poisonous air, bad air that can hurt you. They think the Martians are using poison gas. College students actually drove to where they thought the Martians had landed. They wanted to see the aliens, beings from another planet, with their own eyes. Phone lines everywhere are completely jammed, so busy that no one can make calls. Remember, this is 1938. No cell phones, just old telephones. One woman calls police, "Which roads should we take to escape the gas attacks?" A man calls the bus station, "When is the next bus leaving? We have to get away from the Martians." These aren't crazy people. These are normal, intelligent Americans, doctors, teachers, students, and they all believe Mars is attacking Earth. How is this possible? What people heard on the radio. It's Sunday evening, 8 o'clock. Families are listening to normal programs when suddenly the music stops. "Ladies and gentlemen," a serious voice says, "we interrupt our program for special news." The announcer says that astronomers have seen strange explosions on Mars. The program goes back to music. But then another interruption for news. A reporter is speaking live from New Jersey. He says something mysterious has fallen from the sky at a place called Grover's Mill. Local people have come to look at this object. The reporter interviews a professor who examines the thing. This isn't a meteorite. A meteorite is a rock from space. This is something artificial, made by intelligent beings. Getting worried yet? Because it gets much worse. The reporter says the object is opening up. Something is coming out. The creatures emerging from this thing, they're not human, the reporter says. You can hear fear in his voice. They have tentacles, long, flexible arms like an octopus, and they're carrying weapons. The reporter says these creatures are building machines with heat rays, hot beams of light that can destroy anything. You can hear people screaming in the background, sounds of destruction, and then silence, complete quiet. The reporter's voice just stopped. Imagine sitting in your living room, listening to this. Is the reporter dead? Did the Martians kill him? It gets worse. Other reporters come on from different locations. They're all describing the same thing. Martian war machines are marching toward New York City, destroying everything in their path. Government officials give emergency instructions. Stay in your homes, close all windows. They describe poison gas spreading toward New York. The military is fighting the invaders, but human weapons don't work against alien technology. The final report comes from New York City. The reporter describes the city burning, alien machines everywhere. Then his voice fades into silence. For people listening, it sounds like the end of the world. How could people actually believe this? First, people in 1938 trusted radio news completely. When they heard something that sounded like news, they believed it was true. Second, many people tuned in the middle. They missed the beginning where someone said this was just a story. They only heard what sounded like real emergency broadcasts. Third, the acting was incredibly realistic. These actors sounded exactly like real radio reporters. Fourth, they mentioned real places, actual towns in New Jersey that people knew. When you hear about your own neighborhood being attacked, it feels real. Finally, the timing was perfect. The world was scary in 1938. War was starting in Europe. People were already nervous and ready to believe something terrible could happen. But the whole thing was fake, completely fictional, made up like a story in a book. There were no Martians, no invasion. It was all just a radio play, a story performed by actors. The man behind it was 23-year-old Orson Welles. He had a weekly radio show where his theater group performed stories for entertainment. For Halloween week, Welles had a brilliant idea. What if we adapt The War of the Worlds, an old science fiction story, to sound like real news broadcasts? They spent weeks preparing. They studied how real radio news sounded. They created fake reporter names and chose real locations to make it believable. On that Sunday night, they had absolutely no idea their creative radio play would cause genuine, real panic across America. The program actually began with an announcement that it was a play. But most people who panicked missed that because they were listening to another show and switched stations during a music break. The morning after. During the broadcast, Welles had no idea what was happening outside the studio. They were just performing their Halloween story. When the show ended, the phone calls started. Police, newspapers, everyone demanding answers. Welles was completely shocked. He never imagined people would believe his fictional story was real news. The next day, newspapers had huge headlines. Radio play terrifies nation. Some people were furious. They said Welles was irresponsible, not thinking carefully about the consequences. But this controversy made him famous worldwide. Hollywood noticed him, and he became one of America's greatest movie directors. This story teaches us something important about today's world. False information can now spread around the world in seconds. People share news on social media without verifying, checking if it's true. The 1938 panic reminds us to always ask questions. Who is telling me this information? Where did they get it? Does this make sense? Should I check other sources? This story also demonstrates the power of good storytelling. Wells made an old book feel real. When we're engaged in a good story, we stop thinking critically. That's why stories are excellent for learning languages. When you're captivated like this, you learn naturally without realizing it. So there you have it. The night America thought Mars was invading. But it was really just the magic of creative storytelling. What do you think? If you were listening that night, would you have believed it? Thanks for listening to Slow English Talk. Keep practicing every day. Until next time.